Hello, all. It's been a while. Ben should be joining us in a moment. Ben.
Ezzy,
Hello, sir.
how are you doing?
Praise the Lord. Tell me something. Do you see? One second. Where is the Sfaria? Gotcha. Okay, one moment. Sorry. Yeah. Do you see? Do I need to make it bigger?
I see it, but maybe let me see. I can move
Or
us
make
to
it smaller?
the.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. You see?
Yes, I do.
Amazing. So, how are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm good, pretty good. And I don't know when was the last time we spoke, but probably before the holidays. So
Yeah.
hope everything was good. It was nice.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke before our brothers and sisters were released, right? The live ones.
It's
So
true.
that's obviously
Hmm.
crazy. And before Trump's crazy speech, and the world changes every minute. So
Hmm.
crazy times. But you had overall, it was good. It was enjoyable.
Yeah.
Different from
No, it
last
was.
year. More meaningful.
Yeah, it was. It was. It's definitely more. Felt more in it. Um, it is a very intense period of
Period.
time, both spiritually and logistically. so,
Right.
uh, so it's something to get used to.
Are you a fan of Simchat Torah? There's some people that it's too much for them.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed. I wasn't in the Simchat Torah this time because last year was pretty insane, especially the Chabad. They definitely do it do it well.
Right.
So I took a break from that, but I do enjoy it for sure.
Just to, if anyone's listening, Simchat Torah is our celebration of uh, finishing the cycle of reading
Hmm.
the the Chameshet Chumshei Torah, the 5 books. And hey, RJ, it's good to have you with us. Oh, I was just completely remembering that I forgot to do something for you. Sorry. Um, Yes, so Simchat Torah is we celebrate that, and people are dancing, and they take out the Torah scrolls, and people hug them and dance around them, and everyone in the synagogue gets an opportunity to make a blessing uh, and read from the Torah if you would like to as well, and that includes like the little kids. So it's like a very very special time, and it's a very very long prayer service, almost as long as what usually people have for the Day of Atonement for Yom Kippur, but felt very differently. Right there, you're fasting, you're in synagogue all day. Here, you're in synagogue all day, but there's dancing, there's jumping up and down, there's kids getting candies. Many people drink, even though it's always an issue because the dancing period is happening in the middle of the prayer service, and then later on you still have to read from the scrolls, and you can't be inebriated when you do that. So people need to always be careful about that from a
There's nighttime celebrations too.
right. But
So,
there's also people forget that there's reading also at night.
hmm, right.
People always forget that they're wasted by the time someone has to dump. Like, hey, now there's this other part of the service that we need to do. But we digress a little. Um, but it was a good period. I'm glad. I'm very, very, very glad to hear. Donnie's actually in Israel right now, so I'm gonna maybe meet up with him. Maybe he'll come over for Shabbat. Uh,
Cool.
I did not see what Jacob tweeted, nor do I have Twitter, so I don't know. But you're welcome to join us and tell us about it, Jacob, if you'd like. Um, well, I guess before we jump right back into it, we want to, in any way, review what we spoke about last time, or you want to move forward?
Um, we can review it shortly if we
I guess
have.
just like I would just say maybe just the last lines over here.
Mm-hmm.
Right, we said this everlasting
Yeah, the
love,
Baba
Ahavat
Ta'ala.
Olam. I mean, we did that, of course. We did the Shema. Sorry, why did this jump back? Shema Israel. And why it keeps on jumping for me over here. What's going on over here? Sorry. Okay. Do you see that?
Yeah, I see it. I can see if I can.
Do you want to
Try
maybe
to share
try to
it
add it?
now. Yeah, let me see.
Sorry.
Um,
Yeah,
I
Mugatu.
can't
While
I
Ben
can't
is
say, but
yeah.
I so want you to see this, Chezi.
So
It's
see it.
so beautiful. You would have never guessed Satmar. This is official Satmar Twitter account. Okay. Let me make this bigger. How do I make this bigger? So you see what they wrote?
Makira Surim.
Matir Asurim. This is.
I mean, I
this
don't
is
see them as
Satmar.
I don't see them as that callous. Obviously, Jewish brothers and sisters have been redeemed. Thank
That
you.
callous? It's not a matter of being callous. They tweeted this out with
Baruch
Shema.
Hashem.
With Shema.
Hopefully this is one stage of them coming back home. I'm very glad. Maybe they're starting to hear God knock on the door. Thank you for sharing this with us.
Chezi,
I
love
appreciate
you.
it.
Be well.
You're leaving us?
I have to go.
Okay. We'll miss you.
Okay.
So you adding it?
I am adding it. How did I get here? Okay, that's good. I don't even remember how I used to do this.
On the bottom, there's a screen with a plus, share screen, then a prayer.
Oh no. And then a prayer. Here we go.
Okay, we did this part.
Also, I realized something that I realized is there's a difference between the way that I guess
Sephardi and Ashkenazi. Yeah.
say titbarech, titbarech, titbarach.
Right. We're doing Sfard.
Sfard, but this will be so this will be titbarech. Ra. Titbarach. Okay, we do that. Avat Olam, and then we said the Shema.
Then we got into the Shema, unifying God's name. We said we had to say both of those to get to the Shema, and we're going to start there on Shema. We spoke about in the Shema specifically. Well, towards the end, we were talking about. We're not going to go through the whole thing, but we spoke about how. I think we also spoke about the tefillin over there, but we went through obviously the whole, with all your might and all your soul. We spoke about Rabbi Akiva, sacrificing himself and doing that, and how we always have to be thinking about the Torah as well constantly, and this divine awareness that we want to be in all the time when we wake up and we go to sleep. We spoke about tying the tefillin on your hands, right? That this is like a real physical action. We toyed around with the idea, if you recall, of like the sequence, the progression that our sages talk about, that the Gemara gives about levavcha, right? Your heart, which we said would be like participatory knowing, and then we said v'yadcha, right? Your arm would be the action, the procedural knowing, and then Einecha, your eyes, right? That's so between your eyes would be perception, or so perspectival knowing. And there's your mashkof, there's your doorstep, so to speak. So like it's your environment, right? Which would be like propositional knowing, right? So this is it moves from inner awareness to the outward action, and ultimately there's a broader social impact to these things as well, which we would hope. Of course, we mentioned this idea of totfot bein enecha, right? This idea of it's the lens through which we are looking at the whole world, ultimately.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And if the Indians have like the third eye, right, the little dot on their hand, so like there's the word itself, totfot. I like the idea of the Egyptian connection, how it connects to the pharaoh had a serpent on his head, right? We spoke about that as well. And the scrolls were buried together with the mummy, right? So we are taking, the Torah is in a certain sense responding culturally to, is transforming the womb in which it came from, right? Egypt, like, the motherland. It's taking the pharaoh's crown and turning it to the phylacteries of the head. It's taking the scrolls that like are around the mummy and turning it to like the living mitzvot, right? Instead of being wrapped in death, we're actually like moving forward in life. And there's the whole idea of the Egyptian bondage in general that we're in, that we are now, we're free. We have this moral responsibility, right? So, that's obviously a focus on the Exodus, which we'll get to in the third segment of the Shema, right? Because we just did the first segment of the Shema prayer, right? We're going to do the second one today, and then there's the third. Maybe we'll get to the third as well. We also played around with the idea of, I think we spoke about this with the mystical interpretation also, that we have the pharaoh's crown. If he was the pharaoh of both the upper and the lower kingdoms, it was a serpent and an eagle. And we said that in the mystical traditions, there's Bina, which is understanding, that's like the upper worlds, and Malchut, kingship, is like the lower worlds. And this is a reflection of the two traditions that we have when we put on phylacteries. Some go according to Rashi, with a sequence of the parchments that are inside the phylacteries, which focuses on like the revealed order of things. And then there's the Rabbeinu Tam version, which his different sequence really emphasizes the hidden dimension of these things ultimately. And now I definitely remember, because I remember Jason mentioned this in a comment, but how Israel in this sense, leaving Egypt is the klipa, is the fruit, and inside you have this inner seed that comes out from it, right? This is like, we're seeing like seedlings of this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's read and
Continue
move
the
on.
second one. Yeah.
Okay, you have the English translation as well?
Yeah, actually, we usually put it.
Can you mention the importance of wrapping it around, and the letters that are formed and the connection there? Yes. Okay, so when you are what RJ is referring to over here, when you're putting on the tefillin, right? First off, there's a knot in the back, and this is according to the Midrash what Moses saw. There's a deep meaning into that, but maybe we'll go too deep. But I think we'll touch on to tefillin a little later on, maybe in the next, I don't know, a little later on. But I would want to open that up more about tefillin in that sense. But the wrapping on the hand specifically has on it, you wrap, and it says on it the letter Shin, Daled, Yud, which means Shaddai, right? El Shaddai. This is one of the names of God, which has its own meanings, but we have that wrapped on our hand, right? Which itself is this declaration that we have. And on the tefillin of the head, there is actually a letter. There is a Shin, right? The letter Shin, that has, it looks like 3. We have it over here. We can actually see Vaya im Shema, and it will be. So here you can see a Shin right over here. So the Shin has 3. However, on the other side of the phylacteries, Ben, if you ever notice this, you have a 4-pronged Shin.
You mean just the fact that it's divided?
If you open up a picture of tefillin, you'll notice that there is. I don't know if you could share that, but there's on one side on the black box there's a 3 shin, and on the other side there is a 4 shin, and had tefillin. No G.
Yeah. That probably got me.
Okay. So there you can see over there where it says "be careful." So you can see there it's a 4. I'm saying, look at the first picture where your cursor's on, or sorry, that's my cursor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The second on the second row, that one exactly. There you could see a 4-prong shin.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
right. Okay.
Exactly. And on the other side, it's 3. Now the reason it's 4 is because we are told that when the tablets are being prepared, right, or the when God is writing the tablets, the first tablets, right, the letters were suspended, right? They're sort of, you could see it from both sides, and the letters were burnt sort of into charut, into the stone. Now, if you would take a 3, right, a shin, if you're engraving it, and like I have a flat piece over here, so I'm going to push the 3 prongs through. Right. And when I push them through, I'm left with 4 prongs. So it's supposed to resemble a floating letter and what it would look like if you're looking at it from both sides. So it's a very interesting idea in that. I hope, RJ, that was sufficient. Okay. And obviously you're welcome to join. והיה אם שמוע תשמעו אל מצוותיי אשר אנוכי מצווה אתכם היום לאהבה את אדוני אלוהיכם ולעבדו בכל לבבכם ובכל נפשכם. Right? This is sounding familiar to what we said earlier. ונתתם את ארצכם. This is a new addition. ואיתו יורה ומלקוש ואספת דגנך ותירושך ויצריך. ונתתי עשב בשדך לבהמתך ואכלת ושבעת. ישמרו לכם פן יפתה לבבכם וסרתם ועבדתם אלוהים אחרים והשתחוויתם להם. וחרף אדוני בכם ועצר את השמיים, ולא יהיה מטר והאדמה לא תיתן את יבולה, ואהבתם מהרה מעל הארץ הטובה, אשר אדוני נותן לכם, ושמתם את דברי אלה על לבבכם ועל נפשכם, וקשרתם אותם לאות על ידיכם, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניכם, ולמדתם את ביניכם לדבר בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשופקך ובקומך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען, this is now an interesting addition over here, because what we just said, we said this in the previous one, למען ירבו ימיכם וימי בניכם על האדמה אשר נשבע אדוני לאבותיכם לתת להם כימי השמיים על הארץ. Go ahead, Ben.
And it will be that if you vigilantly obey my commandments, which I command you this day, to love Adonai your God and serve him with your entire hearts and with your entire souls, that I will give rain for your land in its proper time, the early autumn rain and the late spring rain, and you will harvest your grain and your wine and your oil, and I will put grass in your fields for your cattle, and you will eat and be satisfied. Beware lest your hearts be swayed, and you turn astray and you worship alien gods and bow to them. And Adonai's fury will blaze among you, and he will close off the heavens, and there will be no rain, and the earth will not yield its produce, and you will perish swiftly from the good land which Adonai gave you. Place these words of mine upon your hearts and upon your souls, and bind them for a sign upon your hands, and they shall be for totafot between your eyes. And you shall teach them to your sons to speak them when you sit in your house, and when you travel on the road, and when you lay down and when you rise, and you shall write them upon the doorposts of your house and upon your gateways, in order that your days be prolonged, and the days of your children upon the land which Adonai swore to your fathers to give them, for as long as the heavens are above the earth.
Very, very nice. Okay, so I'm sure if you realized off the bat that there's some of it is repetitive with regards to what we read in the previous, the first portion of the Shema, right? So we're seeing that over there, and there's a difference over here, right? So off the bat, in the first paragraph of the Shema, we have with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might, right? With bechol mo'otcha, right? So this is the ideal of for Hashem, for God, that even when I'm at this point of giving up my wealth as well, right? And in the second paragraph, right, it's with all your heart and with all your soul. But here it's sort of there's a joint love of God with this also expectation of reward, though, right? There's rain, there's crops, there's things I need to like to prosper, and in this paragraph, the Torah is really recognizing the weakness we have as humans, that we have this mixed. We love God, obviously, because we love God, and we're trying to be true. But there's also this mix where we have this hope, ultimately, for blessing, right? We're told, we learned in Pirkei Avot, don't lo manat lekabel pras, right? We're participating in the mitzvahs, and we're observing the mitzvahs not to get a reward. Nevertheless, we're not ready for this absolute surrender of with all your might, right? There's this conversation where God is also speaking to us at that level, where He realizes there's, as humans, we also have this expectation.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, so to break down this verse even more, we have this. There's this famous discussion about this in the Talmud, right? In the Gemara, in tractate Brachot, where it brings these two, as classically, these two opposing views. We have Rabbi Yishmael, what talks about gathering your grain, right? Because we see over here, your oil, your grain, your so where he's talking about gathering the grain, this is teaching us to live according to derech eretz, right? What we call like the way of the land, right? We're not supposed to expect miracles. We're supposed to participate in actualizing this in the world, right? That even Torah scholars have to work ultimately, and you have to be participating in this. And we can't take literally that the other world is going to take care of us. Now, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, right, the famous Rashbi, he has a different idea with this. He says if someone is, in English, it would be if someone is plowing, and if someone is sowing, and if someone is harvesting, when will he have time actually to participate in Torah, right? And his opinion is that, no, instead, Israel actually needs to be fulfilling what God wants, as in just keeping the mitzvot, and the rest of the world ultimately will end up sustaining them. And this is a verse from Yeshayahu that I'm trying to think in English what it would be, but it's Zarim are coming to take your tzon. So different Gentiles will the foreigners are gonna plow your gardens and take care of your vineyards. So this is his opinion. And obviously we see there's this tension between Torah study and worldly work. And obviously, Ben, you and I are very aware of this with regards to, Israel, the Haredim and the army, and how that balance is happening, right? Military service for the ultra-Orthodox in Israel. A lot of this also weighs on part of this as well. Like how much work, how much are they also, well, less army, more with the workforce in Israel, right? Where how much of that balance is done. And there are, reconciling views of this opinion, which would be the Rav Chaim from Volozhin, right? The Netziv. He sees it as only a certain elite of people need to be devoted their whole life only to study Torah, right? Which and in that sense, like Rashbi is correct. However, most people need to be going according to Rabbi Yishmael, right? Which is doing Torah and work together. And that's why really the Shema is in plural, which is talking to the nation, right? But this phrase is talking about like an individual, right? So it's talking about more like it's hinting to an individual that feels they could actually take this on and handle this. And there's a famous also opinion of the Khatam Sofer. The Khatam Sofer believes that this is really between Eretz Yisrael, right, the land of Israel, and in the diaspora, right, out of the land. And in Israel, ultimately, one is dealing with the land is not a curse; it's a blessing. It's part of actualizing these stuff. So plowing and dealing with the trees within itself in Israel is already part of the blessing. And if you're doing it, however, when you are outside the land, there it's a different opinion. There, you don't want to be participating with it. But when you come back to the land, and obviously we are very fortunate that today we've returned to the land, that work really regains its it's Torah dignity, holy dignity, right? That we could actually be doing this. And obviously, I hope that all my brothers and sisters in Israel could also agree with that opinion as well. Kalonymous, thank you. Rabbi Naftali Tzvi Yehuda Berlin. What are you adding to us over here? I'm sorry if I'm misunderstanding you. Any thoughts, questions? Because I want to maybe develop this a little more, but I don't want to.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if I have anything in particular. I mean, I don't remember noticing it, or maybe at some point, that it does switch, right? When it talks about the commandments at the top, it's still plural. Shema tishmeu, if you hear, plural. Serve in plural, and all your hearts and all your souls. It's also plural, like I give you the land, the rain in its proper time.
Mm.
But then it switches when it talks about Nafati Esev, like I gave you.
Right, exactly. So the gathering
grain.
of the grain and doing that, right? We're saying that is hitting to an individual that is saying that he could handle like the calling of constant Torah study, and that's going to be for someone else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's interesting, and it's always, and in my mind, I also have this question about. It's almost like you have, in some sense, when we talk about mitzvot, it's almost like you have a direct action that you can take, that is a mitzvah, and then you have auxiliary actions. That are not as directly a mitzvah, but they sustain it. So, but in some ways, it's not like you can just do mitzvot, right? You can just do these very direct, pure actions like studying Torah, and then that's it. It's like the sustaining of it is, at least for most people, is not only it's not a compromise, it's essential. And maybe it's essential in terms of sustaining the society that can also perform this at scale, right? Which is another thing to think about. It's like, as an individual, you might want to optimize for, I want to be as pure as possible in my actions. So I'm optimizing for just doing mitzvot, the purest thing that I can do, whether it's studying Torah or anything else that's particularly that. But I also have my perspective as a citizen or a family member, where I need to think where I can't really optimize just for that, because it's about sustainability.
It's also for living. The chai b'hem, I'm saying it's supposed to be experienced at all levels, right? Like I'm saying, that's why the mitzvah is all encompassing, right? Like I'm saying, this goes back to the previous parsha we were talking about, which is, it's really a constant awareness and mindfulness mode that you're in, that in all roads, in all aspects, the Torah is there. The Torah is allowing you to see these things through its own prism, and you're supposed to act accordingly, right? And I spoke about this in the weekly portion review about how part of the issue with happened with the sin of eating from the tree, right? I go into there with an explanation that the nachash really is another aspect of man's psychology, but that's eating. It's the wrong order of things with regards to like taking this knowledge before you really are eating from, like really experiencing life properly, and then there's a proper order to these things. And if you are going around looking at things from an exterior point of view and not from the Torah point of view, you could very easily go into this land of mundane and land of idolatry. But if you're doing things through the proper orientation, then even drinking wine, right? Or like I speak over there about eating from the according to the Midrash, that eating from the fruit was a grapevine, right? That like You could eat it just for wine, or you could use it to sanctify the Sabbath, right? Like, how are you using this thing?
I have a. It's not a question. It's almost like I guess a question. It might be for later, but and you're saying something about, and I'm remembering also hearing your Pasha video, right? They were supposed to eat from the tree of life first, or like that's part of it. Like, okay, first you want to have the want to be able to sustain the knowledge. Is that where you were saying there? So that's the right
We
sequence.
want to be able to sustain the knowledge properly, right? But we have to do it in the there's like sort of it's premature revelation ultimately, right?
Right.
That's what I'm doing over there.
Yeah. It was just interesting
Instead of allowing life, right, kedusha, sanctity, right, that needs to precede the intellect, right? If he chose knowledge first, right, and that's why it became destructive ultimately, right? So the idea was that. I'm sorry.
I understand that. No, I totally understand that. So then my question is, I don't know if it connects, but it's like in the Amida, your first request is for that, which seems to me to suggest the opposite sequence, where first you want to have a knowledge so you can understand how to.
What do you mean? The first thing is dot, though. If you could.
Well, in the Amida, in the prayer, right? You have the introductory, you have the blessings. So maybe that's something that you have the blessings, but then your first, you have the blessings. I don't know how to call them in the proper term. You have the blessings. Again, Avraham, right?
Yeah. Just to confirm, in Tefillah, you're talking about in the Amidah?
Amidah, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Right. And then your first, you have Chonen Adat, right? Giving knowledge. And that is supposed to be like the first, isn't that like, well, I guess.
No, but you you just said there's a whole prerequisite, which was all the Shema, all the things I'm putting myself into this, all the things we're reading right now, where I'm putting myself all into this mode first before I'm going to even ask, before I'm even going to talk, before I'm going to so I'm saying, once I get to that mode, then the blessing is give me knowledge because I'm in the proper order right now, right? Now I want the knowledge, right? The idea is, right, that if Adam Arishon, if Adam would have acted properly, right? If he, the idea is that it also happened on Shabbat, right? He's doing it, he's eating from it too early. And if we properly balance when we did these things, right? Like the wisdom of the Garden of Eden wasn't forbidden forever, right? It just needs to be approached through the gateway of holiness. Now, during prayer, we've already put ourselves through this whole gateway with Yotzer Or, right? The Arenic, the Agentic, then the Shema, the unification. And once I'm already at the prayer, right? Once I'm entering into the actual, like we spoke about, like the prophetic dry run of talking to God, then obviously I've already done all the things. And we spoke about earlier how we have to do it through Koved Rosh, right? We have to be in the right mindset even to be doing this. So we're definitely not starting with dot, I would say.
Yes, not in the bigger picture, right? Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's why I brought it up, because in my mind I was kind of trying to think about.
I see. By the way, Cal, you're saying it's Rav Naftali Tzvi Yehuda Berlin, and you said I said Rav Chaim from Volozhin, and in that quote, maybe I misquoted it. I don't know, but thank you. If I did, I'm sorry. Can we see your screen again? I'm seeing like half the screen. I want to see how they wrote Hishamru Lechem Penifte Levavchem. So scroll down. Beware lest your hearts be swayed and you turn away and you worship alien gods and bow to them. Right. So if we notice after this first part of the blessings, right, now we're being warned, right, that obviously if anyone's following, this is part of. Did someone just try to join? I just heard something.
No, that's my computer.
Oh, I got you. So we're being warned really over here, right? That the heavens, the skies will close, so to speak, right? Yet right after that, right, we see this this part about put it upon your hearts and upon your souls and upon like right after that, right? So like you're threatened, you're gonna be kicked out, and then again it goes into put these things on your hearts and your souls. So there is an idea over here where we see this jump happening over here, which is again this little addition over here is sort of talking about exile again, that you need to you need to make sure you give yourself how it says it in Jeremiah. I don't know what it is in English. It's simulach tamrurim, like give up yourself, like markers or warn. What would you say?
Stoplights.
Or stoplights, right? To warn yourself, right? Like that this idea of keeping the mitzvahs inside the land and outside the land, right? That like you were saying earlier, that it's fully involved in our life and we're participating in it, that there's this national connection we have with the land of Israel, that even when you're not in the land, you still need to be participating sort of in this ritual constantly. The ideal place to do it is obviously in the land, but you obviously need to constantly doing this because practicing this sort of the dry version of this in exile allows you to fully participate when you come back to the land. But you're not gonna remember this. But if you look at the sequence, it goes like this: that you need to take care, right? Lest if you're going to be deceived, right? You got to watch out, right? So, and you will go into exile, like I'm saying, read it out that way. Like we get this warning, meaning if you don't watch out, you're going to end up following these alien gods. You're going to get kicked out of your land, right? And then when you're in exile, place these words upon your heart, because when you're there, you're going to have to keep the mitzvot nonetheless, or you're going to have to still participate. And like Jeremiah says, it's also going to allow you to maintain this connection to the land. Why? So when you come back to the land, ultimately, right, your children, you're going to have to be able to be there for a long process on the land itself. And then because you're destined to return to the land, right? So you're even being hinted over here what the proper, the proper order of things. You're going to not listen. You're going to get kicked out. You're going to have 2,000 plus years of exile. And throughout those 2,000 years, you're going to constantly be participating in this, really. It's funny when Rabbi Cook in the in the 1900s or 19th century, sorry, when he's born, 80% of Jews are religious and 20% are secular. And when he dies, right?
Yeah.
20% are religious, 80% are secular, right? But most of our period in exile, right? It's Jews are maintaining this sort of connection. And we could see it allowed us to think I'd come to this land, right? And that's why this second paragraph, right, is really teaching us this foundation of observing the personal mitzvot, right? As tefillin and mezuzah, right? Even in exile, we got to do this because it's preparing us to return, to Zion. And again, like I said earlier, our generation comes back. We merited to come back to the land of Zion, right? I say Zion because Israel's, politically, people are nervous about it today. So people shouldn't confuse that Israel is Am Yisrael, Eretz Yisrael, Zion, obviously. And the Chafetz Chaim, I believe, said, Cal will correct me if I'm wrong, but that, the value of putting on tefillin in Israel is like 20 times or 30 times more than putting it on in Poland, right? There's a sense of all these things. If the participation in prayer is a dry run for prophecy, participation in mitzvot in exile is a dry run for doing mitzvot in the land of Israel, where they're ultimately supposed to be expressed, right? So that's not like, I'm not trying to give you a hard time for being in exile right now, but you're the way obviously it's supposed to be happening is here on the ground. So that's why when I said earlier when we're reading this, there's a repetitiveness to this for the first paragraph, because really this is letting us know, again, we're not going to listen, the repercussions of having of that, and then coming back to the land and participating in these things again. And that's why these mitzvot of, like we see over here, of the tefillin and the mezuzah is allowing yourself to build this framework that will constantly remind you of what you need to be doing until you come back to the land. I think we still have time to start maybe some of the tzitzit.
Yeah.
So I can see over here. Is there a connection to the first of the 10 commandments? I think so. What do you mean? Like as far as like the commandments themselves, like the first, or the all the commandments, or the first few commandments?
Or the first commandment. Like
You could
I'm
clarify.
God, your God. Like which one is a command? Because it's also debate.
Okay, tzitzit. We'll also expand on this. We'll expand on tefillin. We can expand on tzitzit. But ויאמר אדוני אל משה לאמור, דבר אל בני ישראל ואמרת להם ועשו להם ציצית. על כנפי בגדיהם לדורותם ונתנו על ציצית הכנף פתיל תכלת. והיה לכם לציצית וראיתם אותו, וזכרתם את כל המצוות אדוני ועשיתם אותם. ולא תטורו אחרי לבבכם ואחרי עיניכם אשר אתם זונים אחריהם. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים. להיות לכם לאלוהים אני, אדוני אלוהיכם. It really ends with emet, and then we read the next portion over here. So you must be careful to connect the last words of Shema, emet. Is true. God's name is true, but that's that. Not then we'll be moving on to the next portion. But let's read the translation over here.
And Adonai spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the children of Israel and tell them to make for themselves fringes on the corners of their garments throughout their generations, and they will place with the fringes of each corner a thread of blue, and it will be to you for fringes." And you will look upon it, and you will remember all the commandments of Adonai, and you will perform them, and you will not turn aside after your hearts and after your eyes, which cause you to go astray, in order that you will remember and perform all my commandments, and you will be holy unto your God. I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai your God. Truth. Mit.
I'll just mention that when we say this prayer during the day, we when you get to this part, you hold your 4 fringes of your tzitzit and you of your fringes, and every time we mention the word tzitzit, we kiss the tzitzit as well. Some people put it around their eyes as well. Some just kiss it. But it's tzitzit. So you know what? Let's. What time is it right now? Okay, let's maybe just do first like a little background on. Let's unpack sort of what's happening with tzitzit over here, because tzitzit is not. It's not really because of the commandment of b'shavtecha b'kumecha, right? That like when we're doing it, when I go to sleep and when I rise up, I'm not saying this to fulfill that part of the mitzvah, which we said part of the saying of the reciting the Shema is, but it's also that we're doing this to remember that we left Egypt, right? All the days of our life, we have to remember that we left Egypt. And this paragraph was brought in because this allows me to do a daily read of, remembering or recalling the story of Egypt. Now, even that needs to be unpacked a little in the Mishnah, in also the tractate of Brachot, as it makes sense as we're talking about this. We talk about the Exodus both in the day and the night. It needs to be mentioned. And there's this discussion. It's also, you might have recalled this from the Agadah. There's Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah. He says that I'm like a man, keben shivim shana iti. I don't know if you remember the story, right? There's this miraculous guy. He's 17 years old. He becomes he gets to a prominent position. He's nervous that people are going to think he's young. And at night, the next morning, he wakes up and his face, all his hair turned white, so people will respect him. So I am like a man of 70. I keben shivim shana iti. And he never merited to get to say the story of the Exodus of Egypt at night. So here you're already seeing a tension that at that time, not everyone agreed about saying that portion at night, right? They were saying the first portion that we read, but this portion they weren't saying yet at that time. Now he teaches us the days of your life, right? The kol yamei chayecha. This is referring to the days, and all the days. There's yamei chayecha, but kol yamei chayecha, right? All the days of your life is really talking about this also includes the night. Now, in the Gemara, of course, some of the sages interpret this differently, right? There's a classic dispute, and they're saying that one is talking about this world and one is talking in the days of Messiah. And this is what's behind this debate is really that Ben Zoma is brought in, and his view really that during the Messianic era, the story of Egypt is not going to be mentioned anymore, the Exodus, because we'll be in such a great place of the Messianic time. It's surpassing this redemption of Exodus, and like it's a whole new level, right? We're returning to the land, and there's no shiabud malchuyot, the end of foreign dominion on top of us. Right now, the way the sages see this though is that the Exodus still needs to be remembered, but the future redemption is going to be even greater than this. And we need to realize that the message for obviously today in our life is that we have to learn to see the sanctity of our own time, how the miracles that we're experiencing today. I'm sure Jacob will disagree with this, but the miracles we're seeing today are folding in front of us, and we should stop to recognize this. But I digress from tzitzit, and I do want to go back to tzitzit with regards to it's how it connects also to this national connection, right? And really, every nation has its own identifying garment in a certain sense, and tzitzit is our national. Not only are we connecting to our national homeland, but there's also like a distinction over here from other people, and it's really this badge. I would even say that we're wearing in the portion of Lech Lecha that we're speaking about Abraham going to the land of Israel, the land of Canaan, right? So there's this verse where Abraham is telling the king of Sodom that he's not going to even take a thread for like a sandal strap, and showing that he's separating himself from the values of Sodom, right? That Abraham's very different in this. And the Midrash connects that because he said that he wasn't going to take even the string or the strap, that this is why we were gifted tzitzit, right? So we see that we're already being distinct, and creating this difference between us and the nations is starting with this physical expression of our identity, right? So there's like this, I'm sure we'll get into Tchelet as well as we move on, but it's very interesting to look at it that way. And I would say that even technically, tzitzit really only applies halachically on a four-cornered garment, right? But which was once common, I would say, like obviously in ancient cultures, and we still see this obviously in Saudi Arabia and things like that. But I would say even today, we see that, beyond the letter of the law, Jews are always expressing this love of tzitzit. Jews are always wearing tzitzit in the morning. All my kids wear tzitzit in school, even though they don't have to be wearing tzitzit. And Jacob loves quoting this all the time, how, from Zechariah, that in one day, 10 people are going to hold on to my fringes and things like that. So, this is... this, I would say, is representing the spiritual magnetism that tzitzit has. It's like this divine symbol. I realize that I said that you don't have to wear it. There are some that say that you do have to wear tzitzit even on like a shirt. There's like upper corners like I have on my collar over here and bottom corners. But the Beit Yosef disagrees with this. There isn't an obligation. If we're already talking about this, I'll mention also, again, from halachic point of view, there is a debate with regards to the fabric. Is it need to be wool and linen, right? Which is sort of like what I wear, which would be more, let's say, in reminiscence of ancient times. Or this is according to the Ramah, you could be wearing, synthetic stuff, modern stuff, and it's all valid as well. And it's also, it shows why it's important, because a lot of people they don't have to be wearing tzitzit. Yet,
right, because if you're not wearing a four-cornered garment, then...
Yet when they play basketball, they all rely on this opinion, and they wear like a mesh tzitzit. Now you could be like, just take it off. You're going to sweat. And like, no, I want to still wear it, even though I'm participating in this hot or sweaty activity. I know I don't need to wear it, so I'm going to lean on, let's say, this other opinion, if I want to, or let's say the quote-unquote more lenient opinion, which will still let me participate in this mitzvah. I'll also just mention that, we even see it in today, that like Israel has a huge boom in many people wearing tzitzit, even if it's, I mean, predominantly secular people in Israel or traditional people in Israel are now wearing many garments with tzitzit. All the soldiers requested tzitzit when they went into the army as well. And just to take this into consideration for a moment, Israel sent 400,000. Again, there was a massive request for tzitzit, right? For these garments, for these fringes in the army, right? Tons of soldiers, secular soldiers, were all asking for this. There were roughly 400,000 reservist soldiers altogether. I mean, soldiers altogether, including reservists, that joined the war since the beginning of the war. That is like 20 million Americans joining the war if they had a war. And that would be like 5 million more Americans that fought in World War II.
Mm-hmm.
Show me one country around the world today that you think there would be that percentage of the population that's willing to go out in a moment's notice, leave everything behind, and go fight a war, right? Like we're showing a completely live and vibrant nation that believes in itself, that believes in its ideals. And all those warriors all wanted to wear the tzitzit as well. And think of the message that means as far as like the meaning that these people have in the life and the things that our nation has. And like, it's a reminder to all the West. It's a gift. It's a reminder of what bravery looks like, of what meaning looks like, of having belief in your country looks like as well. So to me, again, this is like a huge indication of sort of like prophetic times. But I understand people need to be, careful with these ideas as well. I would even mention that. Sorry, you have any comments or things like that? I see like I'm on a roll over here.
No, I'll let you continue.
Again, this is Ben's channel, and sorry, not Ben's channel. This is Jacob's channel, and Jacob is not a Zionist. You could ask him what that means, but I'm just clarifying that as well. This is my own opinion. I would even say though that again, this section that we're talking about over here at tzitzit, right, is, if you notice, it actually begins with these expressions of speech and hearing, right? That he's saying, speak to the children of Israel and tell them, right? So we see over here, and only afterwards do we see this visible thing that happens of tzitzit, right? So I would say that this is, and we spoke about this in Ethics of Our Fathers, about the Hebrew logic of hearing before seeing, right? So there's the Aristotelian view, right, of sight, of the aesthetic, if I'm looking at things, of these ideas and these images, right? So I see, and because of that, I understand. And the Rabbi Nazir, the Rabbi Cook's student, had to talk a lot about this, how the nations of the world are dominated by the visual logic, and Israel has this, he calls it Shema'it, right? There's like the how do you say hearing auditory, the auditory logic that I have, right? So Shema Israel, hear, or Israel, right, is I'm hearing, right, is to hear is really to believe, it's to internalize. And by hearing, I'm really there's an ava, a humility to it. There's there's like a patience, right? And a vision is more like there's a control. I saw it, I understand it, I know exactly sort of what's going on. And really for Jews, or in Jewish thought at least, in this world, hearing, right, means seeing, right? But in the world to come, like it says in Isaiah, they shall see eye to eye, right? Ultimately, I'll see, like, fully understand and see it properly. Or in the mystical traditions, right, the Zohar, when you want to play with the holiness, it always starts with ta chaze, right? In Aramaic, means come see, right? When you're in these holy worlds, then you could talk about seeing. But when you're in this world, you need to be talking about hearing, because we're seeing there's a lot of lies, there's a lot of deception out there. I would even say how it's important to think about that even with deepfakes today. How important is it actually to rely on what we're hearing and what we're understanding, and not necessarily what we're even going to be seeing, because so much of that is fake, either because people are putting up like a fake veneer, or people are literally manipulating the reality around us when they're making like these visuals. And again, this is not to take away from the visual, right? The temple obviously was Noyo Shel Olam, right? This was like the beauty of the world, and clearly it's about sight, it's about the aesthetic, right? But it's all happening inside the bounds of the Torah, right? We spoke about this a lot of times, like even idolatry over there, right? So
right, for a purpose.
Exactly, it's all for a purpose, right? The beautiful chest plate of the God doesn't care that the about all the gold elements in the tabernacle and the temple, but there's a sense where if it's being sanctified and humans appreciate it, obviously there's something to that. You agreeing? I see like a face of maybe like you're doubtful. Maybe you want to throw.
Yeah, I mean, some of this, is new insights, so I'm kind of taking it in.
Tzitzit is fascinating, obviously, and there's like our flag, the flag of Israel is in certain sense connected to what a talit looks like, right? To the garment itself that you're wearing. And it's also supposed to be a symbolic of the Red Sea splitting and Israel walking through it as well. But it also is very much connected to
right.
I mean, going back to the hearing, we sing this in Lecha Dodi on the Shabbos, right? Sof Maaseh v'Machshava Tchila. I drill this into my kids all the time, right? In English, that would be last in action or last in the deeds that you do, first in thought, right? So what appears last externally began with something internal, right? Like if I first thought about something, so Maimonides, right, the Rambam, he says that tzitzit is like the hair, right? Like the fringes are like the hair, right? It's like these strings that are coming out. Right. So these are these delicate strands, right, that are growing from this hidden thought, right? The brain underneath, right? So the deepest ideas that I have are like reaching like action when they come out of my hair. So like in that way, you have like a circle, right? I have the hair on my head, right, which is the intellect, and then I have the tzitzit of my garment, which is the action coming out into the real world, right? So I have like, I'm taking power from above and actualizing in the world itself. And
the fruit.
Correct. It would be that's the fruit, or it's very much the reminder that that's what I need to actualize. And if the Shema starts with hearing and is ending in this sense, like with seeing, right? So this is so again, I'm moving from faith to, like you said, to these fruits, to this embodied vision of what I'm doing ultimately. And that's why the tzitzit is and the Torah says, Lo taturu achrei einechem, right? Don't go after your eyes. Asher atem zonim acharehem. So what's your translation in English over here?
After you, which your eyes caused you to go astray.
Go astray. Exactly. So zonim also means like literally to to liznot is what is going
prostitute
on? Right, but not to a prostitution, but being unfaithful, basically. Right, I'm leaving. I'm entering in this like unholy union in that sense. Right. Yeah. So really, and this again is stressing how our mission of Israel is to unite our inner intentionality with the outer action. Right, and ultimately to reveal the divine unity, right, within the physical world. Why it's so difficult for us is, we on one hand we've had this 2,000-year exile Torah, and like I said, we've been practicing so we could get to this point of practicing it in our land, right? So that's a big part of the tension right now. We're back in our land, and how do we do it? How do we do it as a country? How do we have this Torah? How does it manifest? Like, how do we update it? All these issues that we have, even like, it causes a lot of tensions.
How do you enforce
it? Secondly, I would say even more importantly is that, we lost the land, which we got back now again, and we're getting back. The other thing is we lost revelation, right? Like the second the Torah stays stagnant, at that moment, we lose revelation as well. Like we lost Sinai at that point. We had Sinai, and after 2,000 plus years ago, at the end, when we lose this revelation, and it's, relates to our whole discussion about prayer, things go silent. And then we have a Torah. And as long as the Torah keeps on innovating itself, we still have the echo of Sinai, right? So we still have these elements also of the revelatory word of God. Once the Torah gets stagnant, though, even though we're doing it to preserve it, right? People are very nervous, a slippery slope, what's going to be, which I totally respect and understand. We don't have to fully unpack that argument. But once it gets stagnant, you're cutting off revelation, right? It's not a growing revelation. It's not moving. So that's it's very difficult. So part of coming back to the land is preparing ourselves also to be in that revelatory mindset.
Right. So, which is why in a weird way, the idea of, and we can pick it up next week, the idea of the tchelet, the blue fringe, is in some weird way a political statement, like not only an halachic statement that somebody says, I agree with the halachic position that it's important enough and it's close enough, but it's also almost like political, because you're saying, like we're actively searching for something to do better, even though we lost it in a sense in our tradition, but we're reconnecting.
Right. So we'll get into that. I believe, if I recall correctly, Rabbi Shirky said in the past, someone asked him why he doesn't wear tchelet, because he says, like, I believe that the tchelet that they located, right, the blue color, is indeed from we found the proper source. So why doesn't that wear it? He's like, when the rabbinate of Israel decides that that we should wear it, then I'll put it on. Like, there has to be like this agreement of it as well. The new chief rabbi of Israel, right, recently, who was just voted, actually wears the blue fringe and speaks about it as well. So like, even there, you're right. There's a political element to what he's saying, which is like, we are manifesting this. We are doing this. We're going on. And I believe that is also what God wants us to do. It's, we got to step up. It's not, and this is a discussion Jacob and I have all the time, right? The temple is not going to fall down from the sky. It's a joint effort between God and us. If we need to prepare the vessel, we need to show that we want it. There's these signs that are going around Israel right now. It looks like your classic street sign in Israel. Like, you could imagine, let's say, the colors you see on the highway of like that green or like that brown like sign. And it says in it, there's a picture of the temple, and it says Lehar Beit Hashem, to the Mount of God, right? The mountain of God. And it's just basically saying this way to Jerusalem. But seeing it is like, I would say consciously, it's preparing ourselves, being like, do we dare to imagine one day what it would look like to see street signs that look like that? And there's a sense which is like, that's what it would look like. It would look like a modern day street sign that's showing you this way to the temple. And if we want to build the temple, the first step would be, can you even imagine what that would look like? Do you even know what a street sign would look like? You don't even talk about connecting the internet in the temple. I'm talking about, do you know what a street line would look like? So that to me is, these are seedlings of a conscious change of what is it, who we are, and what is it that we want, right? And I really think that's the only reason we even have a reason to be in this land. If we don't want those things, then we're colonizers and we should leave. But if we want that thing because we believe that through that thing, all the nations of the earth will be blessed, and that our Palestinian brothers and sisters, or specifically our Arab brothers and sisters, will be able to share with us, and even including living in the land, right? The foreigner that's living in the land. The Torah talks about this and stresses this all the time. There's nothing more Israel than Hebron and Judah and Samaria, or the West Bank, what they call that's where Abraham is. That's where the stories are all happening. And another thing that's constantly, and the land of Israel, obviously constantly mentioned in the Bible and in the Quran itself, obviously, or not obviously, but in the Quran itself. But what's also constantly stressed in the 5 books is the foreigner that's going to live inside your land, and how you have to love him and treat him. So the tension, it's a feature, not a bug, are us needing to deal with the Arabs in our land. The fact that they're our cousins, and the fact that they're the foreigner, all of this has to happen, which we need to see ourselves as Israel, and they need to see themselves as Ishmael. and we need to, there's a lot of reconciliation that needs to happen so we could truly understand who we are. But ultimately, it's all for life and all for blessing. On that note, Ben, I bid you adieu.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care. Next week, we'll keep up. Well, we'll continue.
It's good.
Catch you later, dude.
All right.